In today's eMoney tip of the week, we're going to continue this series on stock options with our guest Will here. And what we're going to focus on, so all of our previous videos, you can go back and watch through them. And I gave us the end of our last video. I highly encourage you, before you watch this video, go back and watch the data input side unless you're an expert. I am not an expert in putting this information in. I do stock options, but that's not the majority of our clients. It's a smaller portion of our book. So why I've asked Will to be our guest is because he's the best I've ever seen at putting stock options inside of eMoney. And a lot of times I'll go to Will and say, hey, Will, can you look at this? And we go back and forth and share our brain power on that. But this is going to be where he makes those stock options sing. And Will and I have talked about this at different conferences before. We're sitting at the bar and talking about how can we get better at this profession. And we believe that if you're working with stock options, this is probably the best financial planning software out there. The way it can make it sing, the way it can illustrate to your clients, the way it can build a financial plan. And that's what we're going to focus on today is how can we make it sing? So without further ado, Will, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, let's jump right on in. And so anytime we're talking about these plans, we really want to look at scenarios. But before we get into that, we need to know, what does this information look like in reports that are valuable to the client? So I want to show you a couple that I really love to use with mine. So when we go to reports, you're going to find that there is a report group in there, and you see it's favorited here. Mine is stock options and grants. And if you're not familiar with how to get to that, just click on all reports on the left-hand side. You have to scroll all the way down. On the right-hand side, you're going to see stock options and grants. Jump right on in here. And there's a couple that I really, really like. The first is activity forecast. So I want to show the client, based off of the work that we've done, how we can expect these stock options to come into the plan. When are they going to come in? How much is it going to cost me from an exercising position, if any at all? And what am I really going to get after tax from my proceeds? So if you go back and you look, we did two types of stock option entries. We did some RSUs and some non-qualified stock options. So what you're going to see here is that in 2022, you're wrapping up here at the end of the year, that we're exercising 1,000 shares. It's going to cost us $157.70. But this case, we're not selling them this year. The client wants to go ahead and exercise, hold on to them. They've got some high conviction. And so what you're going to see is, in this scenario, the client needs to be ready to pay $157,700 in exercising costs and $47,286. Now, this tax, when you look at this, because there's RSUs, it's probably being taken care of by the withholdings inside of the RSU. But when you're dealing with non-qualified stock options, ISOs, or restricted stock awards, frequently the withholdings are not going to happen, or they're going to be massively incorrect. And so when those are folding into the plan, you really need to be paying attention to this number here. Now, because again, the RSUs are in this plan, and all we're doing is exercising. We're just paying the strike price on the option. There's no taxation occurred when I do this, because I have not sold. So all this options income tax in this year is from the RSUs. And I'm going to show you another report to get into this here in a second. But what I love about this report, again, is that I can go through here and create a picture and a narrative about when is this going to start cash flowing for me in a positive way, whatever that strategy I'm doing. So in 2022, we've got a net cost. I call this priming the pump. Oftentimes when we're dealing with stock options, we've got a big equity position and we need to get some of that rolling. Sometimes it takes cash. We prime that pump. Oftentimes we'll see this net cost in the first year. But in the long run, what we see is that over the coming years, we start to see it coming back to us, where by 2024, $187,000 net, by 2025, 441, 2026, 338, right? So we can see these options and how it's expected to play out in the plan over time. And I like this from the narrative structure, where I can walk the client year by year and say, this is what we can expect to happen. Now, what do we do with this cash, right? And so that's a whole separate conversation to have, but this is a great platform to go into that conversation, help the client understand the cash flow impacts of these stock options. Anything you want to add to that, Greg?
No, I think the only thing I would add to that is, quite frankly, you and I talked about this. One of the beauty of these reports is you can make these reports available to your clients in the client portal. eMoney to me is all about the client portal. You've heard me say this a million times that I just think the client interactions. So you have a client that has all these stock options. They might have some reports available in Fidelity Net Benefits or whatever they're using. That's one I see most common for my clients. It's not going to sing like this. And so giving them the access and being able to see that. So these same reports are available to your clients if you make them available. And I just think that's fantastic.
That's a great piece to bring up. Let's bring up this next report and we'll wrap up with that before moving on to some of the other things that we need to plan for stock options. And that's tax impact. So remember I talked about the individual tax impact of those options. So here what we have is 2022. We can see the federal income tax. We can see the total option income tax coming through in each year of the plan. So this if you really want to get down, earned income from options and grants. So that's going to be RSUs. It's going to be the spread between the exercise price and the market price when you have when you've got disqualifying dispositions or short-term sales on non-qualified stock options. You're going to see that come through here. Once you've held them for a qualifying period, you're going to get capital gains tax on that spread, which is always optimal. A lot of the planning that I do with my clients, I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm like, how do I move as much of my option income from the left column to the right? And so I build my strategies around trying to help the client realize long-term gain taxation on these options versus ordinary income taxation, which can be massive benefit to the client when done correctly. So really love that report for this too. Those are the two that I use more often than not. If I'm just in the background working and I want to see what's happening with specific strategies, maybe I'll go into strategy details, or maybe I'll look at the vesting schedule. But those to me are more of those back office reports. I'm a planner. I want to see I want to get into some of the nitty gritty details. What's the software really doing? The other reports that you may want to use for that is the ledger report. And of course, we want to see how these income taxes actually affect the overall plan. You can go into your income tax reports package and see how these pieces actually flow up into the larger picture. So great reports for you as an advisor, and two key reports that I find to be really helpful to talk to the client about the options.
Well, I know you and I have brainstormed a couple times, and I was like wrapping my head like, this option's not showing the way I wanted to. That ledger report, you and I have spent time on it. You've saved me so much time when we were doing that together. And one other thing I just want to say up here, a lot of people, they don't like this tax report because they don't realize they can click on that regular federal income tax and it actually starts to look like a 1040. You can start to get into the details of it. These are just great reports. So,
yep. Most of these lines, they'll align with a line on the 1040, right? So it's just a great way to come in here, double check, make sure that what's been happening in the past is somewhat close to what's happening in the future. 1040 is a great way to do that here in the income tax report too. Let's do one more for the community here, and that's going to be talking about concentration risk. And because I think that's when we're really talking to clients about equity, it's concentration risk is just the biggest piece. So stay tuned for the next video next week, and we'll talk about some concentration risk then.
Thank you. Will, I just want to again, thank you. Thank you for helping elevate our profession. Thank you for giving back to our profession. Thank you for taking time away from your clients to help empower other financial planners, because I truly believe this. When financial planners are better, the whole world gets better. And these videos are helping other financial planners impact more lives. So thank you so much.
No worries, man. Anytime.
eMoney. We hope this tip helped educate and empower you to do more plans for your clients so that you can impact more lives through financial planning. If you have some great tips we don't know about, we'd love to hear about them. If you have a better way of doing what we just showed you, we'd love to hear about that, because we are a noble profession, and together we can elevate the profession.